Welcome to America's Stonehenge, as seen through the laser beams of my LiDAR scanner. My name is Thomas Elmore, founder of the GeoNAV group. We specialize in 3D LiDAR scanning and mapping of unique landscapes and features. I'd like to thank Dennis Doan, owner of America's Stonehenge, who helped describe some of what you are about to see. The following video is part of a presentation to a new client. We use this megalithic stone landscape to illustrate the power of our LiDAR scanner and our third-party software. We scanned 16 acres of the property in March and April of 2020. Our work included the visitor center and alpaca shed at the bottom of the hill, up to the main site and over the hill to the west. I think you'll enjoy this video, so let's get started. About this time 2 years ago, Dennis and I got together, and the result is a LiDAR scan of about 16 acres of his property up there at America's Stonehenge. And so using my handheld scanner, I was up there several days, and then many days here in the office doing the post-processing work, registering the scans together and creating what you see here. But I also have some specialized software that allows me to do some amazing things with the digital data. So by changing the transparency, I can keep the trees on, but we can also see the site. With that said, if I change it back, go to a black background, turn the trees off altogether,
one part of it.
now we can see everything as if it's a photograph image. So a point cloud is made up of little tiny dots, hence point cloud. And if I zoom in here, you'll see the points. And my scanner captures 300,000 points per minute while I walk. It captures in real time, and it creates an exact digital twin of whatever I'm scanning. It is not ground penetrating radar. So think of it as a flashlight. Whatever the light of a flashlight can hit, these laser beams, which are not visible to the eye but aren't damaging to the eye, pick up the field, the features that are in the landscape. So one of the things that Dennis wanted us to do here was to not only do the whole site, and the inside the fence, Dennis, is about an acre. Is that what we decided?
Where the chain link fence is, Tom, and then maybe 15 acres you did outside of the 110 acres. Yep.
Okay. So one of the things that we can do is, that's an RGB, but I can color by class, and by turning the trees back on, you get a good idea of what I scanned is the gray is the ground. The red are the stone walls, which is what Dennis wanted to really see the layout and the arrangement of. But because I can turn the trees on and off, he now can see across the landscape. And so, for instance, this is the viewing platform here. And this standing stone here, Dennis, forgive me if I'm wrong, but that's due north. And then each of these other standing stones in the perimeter have alignments with solar and stellar and calendar events. And so, you know, it's pretty amazing what I can do with the data. One of the other things I can do once I have it, just move some things around here, is can very quickly do some cross sections so that you can see the terrain or alignments or whatever it might be. So as a landscape architect, that would have taken me about 3 hours to draw up by hand. And, you know, I did it in what, 10 seconds? But put the trees back on, and that's what it looks like in real life. So it's some great technology. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to bringing it down and applying it and, you know, grabbing the environment and doing what I do to help the group do what they do.
And Tom,
You
you
just
can
have
get
to, how far do you have to walk? Like, do you have to like cross triangulate, or just like go like in little lines, like do
Yeah,
everywhere?
what I do, because my scanner is handheld, It's about 6 feet off the ground, but I can take it down to the ground if I want to. I walk back and forth 6 to 10 to 12 feet in lines adjacent to the previous one. And then that allows me to get all 4 sides of every object. And because the scanner scans in 80 meters in every direction, and I hold the scanner at an angle, I get the ground and the canopy in both directions. So at the end of the day, I get this 3D image that you see here.
That's pretty awesome.
That's amazing. I think that's better than a lot of LiDAR I've seen.
Well, so here's the difference. I'm 6 feet off the ground. The drones have the same Velodyne scan unit, but they're 50 to 75 to 100 feet in the air and potentially are moving faster. So if it's based on points per second, so if I'm moving faster and higher, the point cloud is more sparse. Take it to an airplane, take it to the satellite, it just gets, more and more sparse. 150,000 points per square meter on the ground that I've proven, not including the canopy. A drone is, 700 to 800. An airplane could be as much as 300 or 400. And then I'm not quite sure what the satellite imagery are. I guess if we're dealing with the federal government, they could read the dimples on a golf ball.
So
But
once
we don't
you
have availability of that technology.
once you perform the scan, how long until you have the results that we're looking at right now?
So I was explaining this to Jared. So I'll scan during the day and reconstruct it off the and get it off the scanner overnight. And then the first thing we'll do in the morning is take a look at it and make sure the scans come out, that they look good, meaning they closed on themselves. This uses a SLAM technology, which means I have to start and stop in the same location, and it's simultaneous localization and mapping is the acronym for that. Is SLAM is the acronym for that. So the goal would be the next morning to look at what we've done. If everything looks good, then we'll focus on the next area on the second day. I typically scan every area twice because if I slip on a stick or I trip, the scanner gets jerked and it loses tracking. And therefore I call that a bad scan.
So this might be a dumb question. I noticed the trees have shadows. Does the lighting situation matter? Does that affect the results?
I prefer to do it on a sunny day, knowing full well that I get the shadows. I like the color. I mean, the reason why I bought this scanner is it gives me a color point cloud, but I can turn it to gray mode. Let me just move some more things around here. Hang on a second. And change the intensity. And now the shadows are gone. Let me turn the trees off. So there are ways to manipulate the data. And so one of the things you can see here, if you see kind of like these sinuous lines that, why are those here? Well, this is a scan, this is a scan, this is the overlap. But in the real world, when I zoom in, you can see the color difference, but you can't see the physical difference. So I'm able to register these within a half an inch of each other. And the scanner has a 1 to 3 centimeter accuracy. So you just can't pick it up with the care that I take with the registration. So it's not instant like they show on TV, and that's really annoying for me.
I mean, it's great technology,
Yeah.
extremely beneficial.
Yeah. So the other thing that we can do here is, if you look at these are underground chambers. Let me go to color by class. The blue are underground chambers. And this is called the Oracle chamber here, this one in the center. This one here is called the east-west chamber. The axis is here, and then it goes east and west. But with the software, if I wanted to do a cross section through that, we can see how much ground is above the stone. So here's the roof. That stone has some thickness, and then there's about 20 or 30 inches of dirt soil on top of that chamber. And so again, I don't manipulate the data. This is exactly as it's captured. I just change it with color and intensity and backgrounds and, you know, depending on what the output, what the client wants or the group wants. You know, we can output this in several different types of data and also import several different types of data.
So it does penetrate somewhat.
No, I physically did this as a separate scan. I started out here. I put all my flashlights and lanterns inside and I slowly walked in, went to the back,
I see, okay.
came back and came in here. So that blue is a totally separate scan that I referenced into the bigger scan. So, and what that also says is the size of my project can really be unlimited, although computer capacity is one thing, but I have a monster machine here next to me. I don't do any of this processing on the cloud because the cloud can get turned off and it scares the hell out of me to lose my data.
I agree with that.
Tom, do you have any of some of the detail work you've done, like on some of the walls or like the snake?
Yeah, if I come down here, just give me a second to set some things up.
So we got a couple things while he's setting things up. One is we carry him on one of those Egyptian style pharaoh chairs so he doesn't trip on sticks. That's one of the uses we have. Two, the faster we find a hole for him to crawl in and scan everything, the faster he's crawling in a hole.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I say that I'm only limited by my creativity. If I can get in it, around it, or on it, I can scan it. So one of the things that we can do with this technology and some of the other people that I work with is if you know what the solar significance, solar alignment significance is of any features on any of these sites, we can scan them with that in mind and take extra care. And so Dennis, as I zoom in on this, I'm going to let you talk. Can you see where I am,
Yeah.
Dennis? I'm at the Watchman chamber.
Right, you're at the watch house looking at it. Yeah, kind of in a northwesterly direction.
Yeah.
And the watch house is the boulder with a structure to the left of it. And you can see the walls on either side of that. And as you zoom in on it, you can start to see it a little more detail of it. On the left side, there's a hump. And in front of the boulder, there's actually a pointed tail. It twists 90 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah, right in that area right there. And we've been walking by that since we opened in the 50s and really never paid much attention to the shape of it until recently. And we realized what I think we're looking at is the boulder's the head of a serpent. The body goes off to the right side of the boulder, and it goes in a counterclockwise direction. And we GPSed it a couple years ago, 5 years ago, and it goes 2,550 feet, touching all the astronomical foresight stones. For an alignment, you need a backsite and a foresight. And these are the ones in the distance, the monoliths and the stones that align with the sun, moon, and stars. Yeah, that's a profile from the side. On the left is the hump, the last hump before it goes back in front of its face of the boulder. You can see the boulder head. And you're right there, yeah. The tail's right in front of it, right in front of the face of it, the little pointed tail, 90-degree twist, and the hump just prior to that. But as you look to the right, you can start to see the undulation in the wall. There's several humps there that actually were built into the wall that go up and down, and then it continues all the way around the property. And it comes back, covers about 15 to 16 acres of land. And that's where all the astronomical alignments are again, you know. So It's about a 2,550-foot serpent, we believe, twice as long as the Great Serpent Mound in Ohio. So you can really, I know Tom can zoom into about, I guess, a centimeter roughly, Tom, on that.
Yeah. So Dennis,
resolution.
describe what we're looking at here for them.
Yeah, for the alignment, sure. Yeah, we in 2019, I had a friend from Texas that had Sunseeker on her phone, and she went into the chamber. The back wall has a stone. It's white quartzite. I think you can see it there. Yeah, you can see the stone. It's been talked about for decades. Why do they put this very white stone in the back wall? Yeah, the rest of the stones are basically the granite, and they kind of get patina, moss, and lichens on them. So that has been written up in a couple different books going back years. But my friend from Texas was up. She had taken archaeology in school and astronomy and everything. And she took her Sunseeker, went to the back wall, and she got on the equinox, spring and fall, roughly around, she thought around 9 o'clock in the morning. You'll see the sun actually go into the chamber and illuminate that stone in the back wall. At that time, we hadn't done a forestry project yet. We began that the next year during the course of 2 winters. We had a forestry project with a licensed forester, and we opened up that alignment for the first time ever. We had to open it to our neighbor's property, a couple 100 feet. And in 2020, a year after my friend came up on the equinox of spring, we actually, several of us were there watching this, and the sunlight went into the chamber. It not only illuminated that stone, but it actually framed it on the left side and the top side with a shadow and light effect for several minutes. And this was around 8 o'clock in the morning. My friend was off about an hour. And by about 8:30, that shadow and light actually morphs into like a hand with a finger pointing towards that stone. And what we think is the serpent's head, and on the left is kind of the womb, if you will, the sun, the illumination, and the fertilization of that stone, which kind of looks a little bit like an egg. And so we believe that that's what we're looking at there. So Tom was able to take his LiDAR and pick that up with it. There's also a lunar minor standstill moonrise south, which we should see, I think, in 2035. And it's also a February 1st cross quarter day sunrise over that same stone. So it's a multifunctional structure. But again, you can see the tail in front of it. It's possible that that's an Ouroboros. We're not sure. Ouroboros usually has a tail in the mouth, but we also see the symbol with the tail next to the mouth. It means wholesomeness, eternity. It can mean the circle of life. But you can see right there, you can see that pointed tail, and right in front of that boulder there. We have 14 possible serpent walls, and there's over 400 in the town of North Stonington, Connecticut. And I don't know, Tom, if you've done some work on North Stonington. I know you've been down there.
I have, yes.
Yeah, it's just amazing. These serpent walls go from here all the way out to California, we're finding now.
Yeah.
So maybe Tom's got a lot more work to do. Because his work really, if we had this equipment 60 years ago, we would have found these walls earlier, these shapes and everything, because the vegetation you can't see them with the vegetation. They just hide all the features and the shape of these walls. But Tom's equipment really closed it up.
Hey, Dennis, how far south in the United States have you seen this stuff?
Yeah, they go down to Alabama. Dr. Harvey Holstein from Jacksonville State University down in Alabama has a 40 square mile, and there's different features of structures, of standing stones, cairns, and other things. But he has what he calls rattlesnake walls he's been working on since the 1970s. So I mean, they do go into Mexico, but in the United States, I think that's the furthest south. Oregon and Washington's supposed to have serpent walls, but I got 110 pictures from Weed, California, near Mount Shasta, with similar wall patterns, chevron shapes and other shapes we have, but also the serpentine walls. We had people from Winnipeg just 3 weeks ago, and they have the woman came down because her sister moved to New Hampshire, and they have a reason to come down to New Hampshire now. And she visited us with her, I believe, her husband, and they have the serpent walls. And she sent me them after they left here. Serpent walls up in Winnipeg. They're in one of the national parks, so they go right up into Canada too. And Ontario has them. But the same day we're watching that serpent, Kukulkan comes down the steps at Chichen Itza, and there's the Chaco Canyon serpent petroglyphs that are illuminated the same morning that ours is too. So there's things across the landscape too, involving the serpent and equinox. But the stonework just goes all over North America like this.
So one of the values of capturing the data is we have it and we can continue to add things to it. So for instance, after I was done with my field work and the post-processing, I went back up to Dennis's place. He pulled out his hand-drawn maps that had all the alignments on them, and we physically added them to this database.
This is very fascinating. I like the way that this is seemingly put together and the way that Tom explains things. I'm very excited to have this technology with us, and again, this opportunity. So
That was awesome, Tom, by the way. If he's done, like, I just want to say, like, whoa, I'm like super impressed. Like, whoa.
Well, that makes me happy because I love this technology. Well, that brings this video to a close. Thank you for watching this video on America's Stonehenge as seen through the optics of my LiDAR scanner. I hope you enjoyed this video and have learned a little something about what our capabilities are. I'd also like to thank Dennis Stone for his narration and interpretations of his megalithic stone landscape. Please keep an eye out for our future videos as we will continue to make and post more in the future. Thank you and have a great day.